moral teaching often in Judaism, in Greco-Roman teaching, moral teaching often thought of the end result of moral formation as fruit. That is, if one is well schooled, well taught morally, if one has the Spirit, if one, right, we got Paul saying the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, and so on in Galatians 5. Fruit is often seen as what comes out of a life that has good things going on inside it, right? And so by the fruit of these messengers, by the shape of their lives, Jesus seems to be saying, you will know which ones to listen to. That is, character is a guide to veracity, truth-telling. And that's an interesting true north, right? What people are saying is not in Jesus's focus here. Who is saying it is in Jesus's focus. So, remember when he was teaching about hypocrisy in chapter 6, when he gets to 23, 24, when he's got his harangue to the Pharisees and scribes, Jesus says, listen to what they say, but don't do as they do, because they don't do what they say, right? He allows them to listen because they carry on Moses' teaching, the Pharisees and scribes, but he says their life will mislead you. Right? Here, they don't have that option. That the people that Jesus and that Matthew are imagining are vulnerable to intruding voices. So he gives them a rule of thumb. Look at their lives, and you will be able to sort who actually is a truth teller. And so we get to a problem that actually existed in early Christianity. Lucian of Samosata is one of my favorite ancient authors. He wrote in the 2nd century. He was a satirist. And look at the expression on his face in this bust. He was a satirist. He was ruthless in his satires. Very entertaining guy. If you're looking for ancient things to read that are fun, Lucian is very fun to read. And he wrote a piece called The Passing of Peregrinus. And Peregrinus was a false prophet. Right? He was a guy who went around, and he was a charlatan. So he went around, and it follows an actual person. This isn't fiction. It's kind of historical fiction in a way, done through satire. And Lucian characterizes this guy's scams in his work, The Passing of Peregrinus, which ends tragically with him on a funeral pyre. But this is what he says about the Christians. It was then that Peregrinus learned the wondrous lore of the Christians by associating with their priests and scribes in Palestine. And how else could it be? In a trice, he made them all look like children, for he was prophet, cult leader, head of the synagogue, and everything all by himself. He interpreted and explained some of their books and even composed many, and they revered him as a god, made use of him as a lawgiver, and set him down as a protector, next after that other, to be sure, whom they still worship, the man who was crucified in Palestine because he introduced this new cult into the world. Right? So Lucian, not at all a Christian man, a satirist who looked for things on the horizon of ancient Greco-Roman culture, looked for things that were satirizable, and the Christians became a piece of his literature because they were often duped by what? By people who came through as itinerants and convinced them that they were the real deal. In the extended version of this, in the verses to come after this, we see that he made off with a good deal of their money and a good many favors because he Peregrinus endeared himself to them. So the Christians were known, at least to this satirist, and usually a Saturday Night Live sketch doesn't work very well if it doesn't pull a string that everybody at least knows is in place. So we would imagine that he's portraying something that a wider audience would have perceived as well, right? So the early Christians were often seen as gullible. Jesus tries to answer in advance that gullibility, or supply them with a way to respond in the face of competing voices and uncertainty of how to sort them.